Welcome to Live with the Eczema Doc, brought to you by Clean Body, where we believe that you can heal your skin from within by cleaning your body. I'm Dr. Fong, a naturopathic doctor specializing in eczema, and I'm here to guide you through the journey of understanding the root causes of your eczema so that you can finally achieve the clear, healthy skin you deserve. Each week, we combine research-backed insights, science-based strategies, and my years of clinical experience to uncover what's really triggering your eczema and how you can take control for lasting relief. Let's dive into today's episode and uncover the next step to healing your skin from within. Hello, everyone. Today we are talking about eczema relief through local and seasonal foods. What does this mean? Well, this is different from shopping at your supermarket. This is actually working with local farms and using something called a CSA and really optimizing the nutrients that you're getting through your food by eating locally and seasonally. And we're going to see how this is really going to help your skin to heal faster, how it's going to help the relief of skin flare-ups, and we're going to really break this down today. All right, so why does food quality matter for eczema? Well, this is a topic we talk about a lot, but really the quality of your food, where you get it from, whether you're eating it seasonally or are you getting this food from far away and it's not even in season, can actually play a really big role. And we know that food really can either be medicine for us or it can be poison. So we want to really use the medicinal parts of food, and food can help to lower inflammation. And as we know, eczema is really a chronic inflammatory condition. And so foods that are rich in nutrients such as omega-3s, for example, vitamin C, these can actually help to lower inflammation, reduce oxidative stress, promote skin barrier health. So I really want you to stop thinking of your food as just something that brings you, mental pleasure, because I think that's what we kind of think about our food with our minds a lot of the time, and what our stomachs are wanting to just eat at this very moment, and that hunger sensation that we're experiencing. And we're not really seeing our food as medicine, and we're not seeing our food as the nutrients that are really the building blocks to healing our skin, to promoting skin health, okay? And so those nutrients also can really support a optimal microbiome. And as we know, because I talk about this a lot, microbiome imbalances are one of the number one root causes of eczema. And in almost all of my eczema cases that I treat, I'm often seeing these microbiome imbalances. So, it's a big deal. And the more fiber we eat, so vegetables and root vegetables and just vegetables in general contain a lot of fiber. And these fibers can really feed our good bacteria, which really feed that microbiome in a way that will really help the health of our gut. Those beneficial bacteria do so much in our body to help lower inflammation. They help digest our food. They help create more nutrients in the body. And so when that microbiome gets imbalanced, this is when our immune system starts to go a little bit haywire. And this is where we can start to get symptoms like eczema, okay? So supporting gut health is another really important reason we want to eat local and seasonally. And we'll talk about why that's the case, because you might say, well, why can't I just buy my food from the supermarket? Is that not the same thing? And we'll talk about that. Minimizing toxins. So, eating locally and seasonally, you can really find farms that are using better water. You can find farms that are organic, that are not using pesticides. And this can be really important. So not only do we really want to eat food as medicine, we also want to avoid foods that are poisonous to us. And that can include things like pesticides that are sprayed on conventional produce. And so, of course, going organic can be really important. But not only that, the water that these farms use as well, too, can be really important. And when you work with a local farm, this is something that you can potentially ask about, and you can make sure that you find a farm that uses clean water. All right. So why can it be helpful to eat locally and seasonally? Well, eating locally means that you might actually have fresher produce. And we know that nutrients degrade quickly after harvest. So, for example, spinach can lose up to 90% of its vitamin C within 24 hours of improper storage. So, when you choose a locally grown through a farmer's market or through a CSA, which again, we're going to dive into a little bit more, what is a CSA in a moment, you're often getting fruits and vegetables that have been harvested within a day or two. And this preserves far more nutrients compared to store bought options that may have traveled thousands of miles and spent weeks in storage to get to you. And there is a difference in taste. You can actually taste this freshness and you are tasting nutrients when you are tasting that freshness, okay? Peak ripeness also really matters. So seasonal produce, when it's harvested at its peak, can be more ripe and actually can have more nutrients. So for example, lycopene that's found in tomatoes, we're seeing more of these nutrients in the tomatoes at the peak of that harvest, and beta carotene in carrots, which gives, that orange color to the carrots. And again, you can taste the difference. And so this nutritional value is so important. You know how I always say, eat the rainbow. Well, I want you to eat the rainbow because those phytonutrients are the vitamins and the nutrients that you really need to help your skin to heal and for that medicinal component that I keep talking about. I also said, let's not eat poisonous food. And when I say poisonous, I mean toxins, which unfortunately we have a lot of toxins in our food nowadays. So if you are eating organic, then you are hopefully not getting exposure to those pesticides that they spray on conventional farms. Unfortunately, some organic produce, if they're around other farms that are not organic, sometimes there could be some residue. So you can make sure that you're working with a farm where they kind of pay attention to that. They make sure that that's not happening, because the pesticides I do find in my eczema patients when we do environmental toxin testing, and I do find this quite frequently. And so, when we see this in testing, then it really, really tells people, okay, I really have to think about where I'm getting my produce from. I really have to make sure to avoid those top 12, foods that have the highest residue of pesticides. It's called the Dirty Dozen, and the EWG does release that list every year. So you want to really make sure to focus on those Dirty Dozen foods. Make sure you're buying those organic. And then the EWG does also release another list called the Clean 15. And the Clean 15 are foods that might be okay that you buy conventionally, because they don't have as many pesticide residues. And then one thing that's really great about using a local farmer, a CSA, et cetera, is that they potentially are using cleaner water sources. So, they might be using filtered well water, rainwater, or controlled municipal water that don't contain heavy metals, pesticides, industrial chemicals. And so this is something that you can ask as well when you're searching for a farm that you want to work with. And a 2015 study highlights the role of these environmental chemicals in aggravating atopic dermatitis or eczema, showing that exposure to these pollutants is really important. And this could be a place we're actually not thinking about it, right? We might be filtering our tap water at home and we're thinking, okay, we're protecting ourselves, but you then might be eating produce that has been grown with this water that has these contaminants. And unfortunately, this can get into the food that way as well, too. Okay, and then we're always talking about gut health when we talk about eczema. And a 2017 study did find that soil in organic farming systems is significantly more heterogeneous and diverse in microbial populations compared to conventional systems. So your organic farm actually has better soil that may be feeding those microbes that are on your produce, therefore feeding the microbes in your gut in a very good way. And so, there are more benefits than just the pesticide problem in conventional farming. Then eating seasonally can really encourage you to change it up. And, some of us really like to eat the same thing all the time. If you're always eating broccoli and if you're always eating carrots, and those are the only fruits that you eat, I recommend that you change it up and that we eat seasonally. And so you're basically eating, whatever is in season in your local area. And that really allows you to have a lot of variety, a lot of diversity. That actually helps your gut microbiome as well too. And it really helps you get a lot of diverse nutrients. So it's really great. And I get my CSA box and it's filled with all these vegetables and fruits, a lot of which I wouldn't buy if I was just purchasing these on my own. And then I have to be really creative, and it's really fun actually, and I have to put a lot of vegetables in my food because we need to use up what we're getting on a weekly basis, and I think that really does promote eating more vegetables as well. So I really like the idea of using a CSA. So what is a CSA? Well, CSA stands for Community Supported Agriculture. And this is really a partnership between the farmers and the consumers. And when you join a CSA, you're basically purchasing a share of the farm's harvest at the start of the growing season. And then you could get your, boxes of that harvest either every week or every 2 weeks, depending on what you choose. And there's so many benefits to working with a CSA. So, you're getting that fresh, nutrient dense food because again, that CSA produce is often harvested within a day of delivery. And that really gives you that maximum nutritional value. So it's really awesome. There could be reduced toxins because many CSAs do use organic or sustainable farming practices. So you want to just find one that does. And, as I mentioned, because you kind of don't know what you're getting and that your CSA is hopefully in your local environment, you're really just eating seasonally with whatever is growing in your local environment, which I think could be really great for diversity. There's a lot of transparency and trust. You know where your food is coming from. You know what kind of practices these farms, are doing. And your food isn't coming from thousands of miles away. And you have no idea what the practices are, for these farms when you're buying store-bought produce. So this can be a really great option. And, how do you find a CSA? Well, you can search online at resources like localharvest.org to find a CSA in your local area. If you have a local farmers market, which a lot of us do nowadays, you can kind of just visit that and talk to the people that work there and look at their produce, and you can ask them a bunch of questions, which I'll dive into in a minute. You can look on social media, of course, and then what's also great is if these are really local farms, you could potentially even visit the farm and see what their practices are like, which is a very cool thing. So when you're looking for a CSA, there's two types of questions I want you to ask. First of all, water quality. Ask them what their primary water source is. The ideal would be rainwater, municipal water, or clean wells. You want to try to avoid industrial or contaminated sources of water. Words like fracking water can be contaminated by those industrial contaminants. So make sure to ask about that. Ask them if they test their water for contaminants like heavy metals or pathogens, and hopefully they are testing their water regularly to meet safety standards. And then do they filter or treat the water? And irrigation water is filtered or treated to ensure that it is free from contaminants. That is what we would really want. Okay, so that's the first thing. Then you want to ask about their farming practices. We want organic if we can, and regenerative farming methods are great too. This can help us to avoid synthetic chemicals and focus on that soil health. And that's where we can get more microbes in that soil. You can ask about how they manage pests and weeds, and hopefully they will use natural pest control methods such as beneficial insects and crop rotation. And then how do they build their soil health? Hopefully they are paying attention to that. And you want, them to be using composting or cover cropping and crop rotation to maintain that nutrient-rich soil. So those are some questions you can ask, and you can find a local CSA, and it's such a great option, and I really love it. It just gets delivered right to your door every single week or every other week, depending on how fast you get through your produce, okay? So when you are eating locally and eating seasonally, what are some things you want to focus on for eczema relief? Well, I love the leafy greens, and often in a CSA box, you're going to get a lot of leafy greens. So when I get my box, it is filled with leafy greens. In fact, the other day I just made a soup and I just threw a bunch of those leafy greens in there, cabbage and kale, etc. And again, it just forces me to eat those things when I maybe wouldn't buy as many of those vegetables if I was choosing these on my own at the store, okay? These leafy greens have so many nutrients, vitamin A, vitamin C, antioxidants, and this really will help to support skin repair. And then there are some omega-3s. So most of the omega-3s we know are in fish, but there are some omega-3s in our vegetables like Brussels sprouts, winter squash, and seeds such as flax seeds and chia seeds. So these are some produce items that you want to increase in your diet to really help with skin repair and really supporting a strong skin barrier. When you have those seasonal deliveries, do things like winter comforting foods. Again, I love soups and stews, and just kind of throwing all those vegetables in there is really awesome. You can use spices like turmeric that really go well with those winter roots. And that has a really good anti-inflammatory properties to turmeric. And then in the summer, you can do the more cooling, and you'll notice that your box will have, these varieties in the different seasons, which is really great. And so cooling things like cucumbers and greens and berries, and really making it nice and beautiful and colorful during the summer months. And we really want to eat the rainbow. So what I love about a CSA box is it's going to be filled with rainbow colors. So you got your reds, which are high in lycopene, and anthocyanins, which really combat oxidative stress and reduce inflammation. You got your orange and yellows. These are rich in beta carotene, and this is so important for skin repair and hydration. It's also important for immune function. Greens are packed with chlorophyll, vitamin A and C, antioxidants, and this really promotes detoxification and can really help to reduce inflammation. So I love greens. A lot of greens. Throw it in your smoothies and really get those greens into the diet. Blue and purple also contains anthocyanins, which again help antioxidants, and that's like in your berries, your blueberries, etc. And then white and brown, like cauliflower, garlic, mushrooms, these contain allicin and other compounds that are really good for boosting immunity. So I love mushrooms, especially during the winter time, and then throwing some garlic and ginger in all of my soups as well. Now, how do you make sure that you're maximizing the nutrition once that produce gets to your door? So first off, you want to avoid washing the produce right when you get it. You want to use it wash the produce right before you use it, okay? Because that excess moisture when you wash the produce can lead to spoilage. So right before you use it, that's when you want to wash. And you do need to be making sure to wash your produce, okay? So you can either buy a produce wash at your store, or you can just make a produce wash by mixing 1 part white vinegar, 3 parts water, 1 teaspoon of baking soda, and then just soaking your fruits and vegetables for 5 to 10 minutes and then rinsing them thoroughly. And that will remove dirt, microbes, and even pesticides and any pesticide residues, okay? You want to make sure to store your foods at optimal temperatures, okay? So leafy greens and cucumbers and most fruits thrive in the crisper drawer of your refrigerator. So you could put it in that drawer. And then root vegetables like carrots and beets last longer in a cool, dark space like a cellar or a pantry. And then you want to be making sure to put things in airtight containers. So especially if you're doing any meal prepping and cutting anything up, just make sure you're storing cut produce in airtight glass containers, and that retains the moisture and the freshness. And then if you are dealing with leafy greens and herbs, you can actually add a damp paper towel to those, and that will actually help keep them hydrated, okay? And so other things to think about: tomatoes, store tomatoes at room temperature for better flavor, and then avoid refrigeration unless they're fully ripe and starting to soften, because those do better at room temperature. And then berries are actually a type of fruit that often go bad pretty quickly. And so a couple of things, you can actually keep berries in a single layer on a paper towel in an open container in the fridge, and then only rinse before eating. And this can help to, lengthen their lifetime. And once they start to go bad, I typically in my house, we actually throw them into a little, silicone bag, and we put them in the freezer. One thing I do also want to say about frozen fruits and berries are that, sometimes those pre-frozen, like if you get it in the freezer section, frozen fruits and things like that, sometimes those are actually the fruits that have started to go bad, and they can have a little bit more mold on them. So I often actually like buying the fruits fresh and then freezing them myself is sometimes a better option. If you have a mold issue or a mycotoxin issue, or if you have an eczema issue, an inflammatory issue, it can be better to actually freeze them yourself, okay? Just as a side note, okay? And then squash and pumpkins, these can be stored in a cool, dark pantry, just like the other root vegetables, okay? Now, if you are gonna freeze, if you have surplus, like I said, if you have, if you haven't finished your berries, then you can just throw those in the freezer. For other greens, you wanna blanch them first before you freeze them. Blanching means you're briefly putting them in boiling water, and then you're freezing the other portions for future use. And then you can actually make sauces or soups, and you can also freeze those. Make sure you're doing an airtight container. And then another great thing to do if you have like cucumbers, radishes, or carrots that are going bad, you can pickle them or ferment them. And this can not only help to retain the nutrients, it will actually add gut-friendly probiotics. So this is a great way to also handle, if you have a surplus of produce from your CSA box, because sometimes it can be hard to get through all of that produce if you are getting a CSA box every week. So, this can be so important. I think it's something we don't think about. I think we often just think, okay, we need to eat organic. We don't really think we should maybe be eating local, or we should be eating seasonally, and the reasons why we should do that. And at Clean Body, this is one thing we like to think about is, what can we do in our daily lives? What can we change in what's going into our mouths on a daily basis to really help our bodies to heal? So this can be so important, and hopefully making this change, you'll see a difference in what you're eating. You'll actually see a difference in how the food tastes. You'll see a difference in the types of recipes you're making, and it can really be a great decision to make. So in this new year, I encourage all of you to, try out your farmer's market, try out a local farm, and even consider joining a CSA. Thank you for joining Live with the Eczema Doc. I hope today's episode provided you with valuable insights and tools to support your journey to healing your skin from within. For more information, visit www.cleanbody.health or check the links in the podcast description. You'll find the studies and resources discussed today on my blog. You can also take my free eczema root cause assessment to uncover potential triggers, or download my free eczema relief guide for quick, practical tips to calm flare-ups and help with your sleep. If you found this episode helpful, please remember to like, subscribe, and share the podcast to help others on their healing journey. And if you'd like to stay updated with future episodes, please turn on your notifications so you don't miss a thing. Please remember this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Always consult with your healthcare provider or book a consultation with me before making any changes to your healthcare regimen. When you clean your body, you heal your skin from within. Thank you again for listening, and I'll see you next week.